For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andy Coro. I'm the former chair of the planning board. I was kicked out on Wednesday. So first and foremost, I want to thank you very much for being here today. I mean, it's 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when the sun's out, but that shows your commitment to this process, your commitment to the town, and I really appreciate that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our consultant, Peggy Kieschnick.
Good morning. It's great to be here. So I'm Peggy Kieschnick. I live in Dover, actually, so I'm from away. But I'm very happy to be here with you today to help guide the day. I'll serve sort of as your MC or facilitator as we move through the day. First question, what is a master plan? So this is about the master plan. What is it? So it's a policy and planning document that's adopted by the planning board and that establishes a direction for the development for the town going forward. So the vision is the key, and on your chair when you came in you had an agenda and also a bright red, yellow master plan vision. And so I'm just going to walk you through that because it's a lot of words. In 2025 and beyond, you want to be able to say that Durham is a balanced community that has successfully maintained traditional neighborhoods, natural resources, rural character, and time-honored heritage. You want to do all of that while at the same time fostering a vibrant downtown, achieving energy sustainability, and managing necessary change. You want to be able to say that Durham has effectively balanced economic growth, which has been essential in supporting our schools, resources, and town services, and stabilized property taxes. Durham has encouraged mixed residential and commercial development in and near the downtown, including retail establishments, offices, services, eateries, and other businesses that serve local needs and interests while attracting visitors from neighboring vicinities. In designated areas beyond downtown, balanced development was accomplished by prudently integrating our community's range of values. And through forward thinking on the part of our citizens and town government, in tandem with continued pursuit of a productive partnership with UNH, our vision for Durham was realized. So all of this is in that statement, but this is your dream, and it's pretty ambitious. There's a lot that's packed into that. And so the question then is, so what are we working on today if all of that has already happened? So today's focus is really on the future land use chapter. So this is about helping you to think together, for all of us to think together about what the town's going to need and what you want to see 10 years from now in terms of how the land is going to be used. There's some things, again, that you've seen from your vision that you already know. You know that as you are thinking about land use, you care passionately as a community and widely and deeply about a number of things. You care a lot about the natural resources that are here. Not every community says that, but for this community, that's a driving force. You care about maintaining your rural character. You care about heritage, vibrant downtown, energy sustainability, economic growth, stabilized property taxes, and a healthy relationship with the university. So these are all things that you have enormous agreement on. So today, we hope to provide some guidance to the town. Your voices are helping to guide the town in how to achieve the right balance. What trade-offs are okay with you and not okay. So when the planning committees and the planning board is meeting 5 years from now, I want them to be able to remember your voices from today about what you said was important to you, not so important to you, what trade-offs were okay to make and what trade-offs are not okay. We're going to cover 3 major topics over the course of the day. The first one is on preserving, protecting, and enjoying our land. The second is on providing for your housing needs, and the third is nurturing a vibrant business base. That's a lot of ground to cover in one day. By the end of the day, we want to have a sense from you about what's important to you in each of those areas, where you agree, and we also really need to know where you disagree. So you do not have to reach consensus on anything today. There will be no final decisions made about anything today. We're trying to take the temperature of the community as a whole and really get a sense of what do people feel, what are you thinking, what matters to you, and where is there some just really across the board agreement and where isn't there? Where do you disagree and you've still got work to do in order to understand that?
And I just kind of get this thrill when I'm driving around because there is so much beauty around this town, and I think that Durham's doing that very well.
Preserving the beauty of the town.
I always feel like when you come down Manbury Road from Ford, you're like driving through a national park. Because the big corridor of trees, it looks like a national forest.
I'll admit, when I say conservation, I mean trees and water and air and open space, certainly accessibility. And I know that the trade-offs and bleeds are parking, cars, transportation. I know that impacts it.
I think it's already, the fact has been raised that for me to find out about what was publicly accessible in terms of the
knowledge of
I had to dig on websites, and it's just not. In fact, I did go to the library and found a couple of brochures, but it's not obvious, it's not out there, it's kind of hard to find that information.
Somebody's not doing something so well.
Yeah, there's a question as to whether or not Durham is contributing to the problems in the Bay. Because there are problems in the Bay, and if we're contributing to those, then we're not doing such a great job.
The reason I picked important is maybe I don't understand the question, but I think there needs to be some flexibility for the farmer. I mean, I just don't want to hamstring some guy who has a farm who needs to do X, Y, and Z. And the other thing is, the balance on Long Island that they struggle with is, we do need to have our children live someplace. So if we exclusively don't let them maneuver in some way, maybe have a farm with some housing adjacent, or somehow we need to be able to accommodate the people. So, but I love those farms out there. I mean, I use them a lot.
I feel like you're both saying not only protect the farm, but the farmer and their use of their farm and for themselves and their family is important.
Proceed. Tell me how to word this. What I want to do is recognize that we're part of a much larger community on the seacoast, but insisting on maintaining our community values while we recognize our obligation to be supportive of the broader area.
Getting back to the change in the future, and especially what you were talking about, like Davis Ave and those trails, is making sure as we do change and develop in areas that we include connectivity of trails and open space and wildlife corridors. So recognizing there are going to be places that develop, but let's do it with that in mind and creating connectivity.
And connectivity for animals and people.
Yeah, wildlife.
And do it up front.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about it, planning
it. Part of what I'd also like to add to this in land use is recognizing different generational pulls.
Interesting.
In that we cannot long survive as a community if we are not welcoming in our policies to people who are of varied age groups and income groups.
Maybe as another way to tackle or bring my thinking into focus is the variety of plant life and trees. I'm really uncertain as to whether, to stay on conservation, if the plant life in the town is one that's long-term sustainable and if it has the variety for nurturing itself? Maybe I'd leave those as questions. I really don't know.
I think we all want to access these areas, but we want to be mindful of trespassing or just abiding by whatever rules that are in place. And I know that we've come across conversations in the university as to what the best and proper uses are of those areas, whether people should be able to mountain bike in them or run, or if it should just be left for absolutely no human interaction. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, I think a path is okay, but it's just as far as outlining what is okay to do on those lands, it's probably something that Durham could improve.
I would love to see all these farms and everything else. And again, I believe in paying taxes because I think it's important. But I think that the town has to think ahead to this gigantic monstrosity of university, and how are we going to maintain these things that we like with the university breathing down our neck.
I think Sean is concerned about Durham turning into this little museum where it's not flexible about land use. We keep all these pretty farms and a few cows and everything, but in fact, maybe there should be a more flexible attitude towards
I think something that's gotten left out of this discussion so far is the lifetime and multi-generation commitment that those owners of farms have made. They're not in farming for all the money they could make, because there's obviously a heck of a lot of other things that make a lot more money and are a lot less risky. But these are people who really love the land that they're on. And if we're talking about preserving land, you gotta not throw roadblocks in their way by taxing them out of it, forcing them into selling when they don't want to. It's important to connect young people to the idea of agriculture. It doesn't come from the store, it comes from the land. And so encouraging people to learn about growing things is important. School projects and everything, and farms can do that. And so I think we really have to think a much bigger picture about farms than just whether the land is being taken up that could be used to put in a big housing development.
You really don't want to go overboard and, give everybody, a tax break for having a couple of chickens. So...
Depends how many eggs they produce.
So I see this as not an essential question, quite frankly. I think this is a recreational question. Is it nice to have? Yes. Is it important in my world? No. Is it essential? No.
We don't really have sufficient playgrounds for children, as far as playgrounds.
We just have the one by the ice hockey, right?
Yeah, and we don't really have one that's centrally located.
Yeah.
Question about the new soccer fields at the high school. It's, I think, is it available for anyone to go play off hours?
No. So I think it's
and I guess I would like to, one of the things, it seems like that could be a dual use thing.
Yeah.
If it's not being used by the schools, that it would be allowed for kids to go play soccer there as pickup.
What a radical idea.
I know. If it's not,
you want to put that up there?
So I guess I would, just to make sure, because we want to make sure that's used optimally, right? To its fullest potential. One of the things about cross-country skiing is that it's best to go during the snowstorm, right, or right after when the roads aren't plowed. This goes back to connecting all the land, is being able to just go from as many places as possible and connect to a loop, so that you can, explore.
That would be great. To have more connected.
More connected
cross country. Okay, we'll put that.
That's a good point.
The other thing that would be helpful, I think you also said something about a central location for all the lands, but also a central location where all the opportunities are listed together.
Yeah.
Central information.
Central information.
That's true. Yeah.
About how to use the land.
That's easily found.
Yeah.
The playground
Yeah, I don't have kids, but in the interest of people who may not be here today, I've always thought that the Oyster River Park in the faculty neighborhood, having a small playground might be nice for parents to meet each other. But nothing huge like the one at Jackson Landing. But just really, I think parents tend to be isolated, and a playground helps that.
And I lived in a single-family house behind the Catholic Church, and that neighborhood became student housing in single-family houses.
But remember, this is for all of Durham.
This is why I would put yellow. Okay. Unless we have a longer discussion about what a single-family house is used for, I would be cautious.
Okay.
You know, I'm a big believer in single-unit housing as an individual, but I just don't see that we need to keep using up more property for single-family development. So I guess I'll put a yellow there. I'd like to stop it, but I feel like that's overstepping my bound. Assisted nursing, I'll put yellow. It's not that I don't believe in it. I just think that if Riverwoods comes, the new place, you know, I mean, and Young Drive, I think that we could be maxed out on that. But I do want to be aware of how, it's not affordable to be living in this town if you're starting out and if you are sort of aging out but still want your independence. So
Let me just jump right to the multi-unit and the 2 to 3 development duplexes and townhomes. I think that we're trying to attract a younger population eventually, and we may be moving that way in the next generation. And this comes in the economic, opportunity for these people. So I do see green and yellow on both of those. Probably green with the multi-unit apartment, and then a yellow on the 2 to 3 duplexes.
I'd like to have multi-unit housing for adults in the shopping center.
In the what?
And that's fine. Shopping
That's
center.
fine. Yeah, within walking distance.
You'd like
of
to,
the
I mean, if that's what you'd like to see, write it down. But you'd like to see
my
that.
message is that if you want to have places where there's going to be more kids, the university can build more kid living space. But it would be nice as our aging citizens, not just our group, but future groups 10 years from now, have access to the commercial district.
That's what I just wrote. Have housing not just for young professional workers, but also for older adults.
Yeah, we don't need any more kid living.
Exactly.
So you're saying.
See, when I think of research development, I think of the jobs that could come in and the people that would be working at those jobs and then what those people could give back to the town as far as customers, to the small retail and to the restaurants and to the, adding back to the community and be residents. It would be residents would be able to work there, and that's how I see it, and that's where I see the community. Because if my husband worked there or my son got a job there, we're part of the community, and that's providing them a place to live where they can walk. And then we give back with the other things.
From my perspective with the plaza, we want to create a live, work, play community where people live on site. Their work would maybe be students at the university, but they, in any retail component, the longer you have people in an area, the more successful the merchants become. Unfortunately, with the town, a lot of the merchants aren't able to survive because the people come and go. They're in and out, and they come, they shop at 1 or 2 locations, and then they leave because there's not enough critical mass. There's not enough parking. What happens in the town is the university ceases. They close for a semester break or year end, and you could shoot a gun off and not hit anybody. And if you can start to develop a culture where you get research companies that come here because of, and a lot of it spins off the university. Because of the university, if you can get some grants to bring in companies that co-partner with the university, those people are here year-round. And it helps promote commerce, it helps strengthen the economy of the town.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to develop the gateways like
some of the other towns are around, you know.
Miracle
like,
Mile is
yeah,
in
Miracle,
Dover.
you know.
Well, they
yeah, I
could
mean, so I,
they could put a restaurant in Gasoline Alley too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Here, I think, is one of the last pieces of arable land in town. There was growing corn last I saw anything growing out there. I don't think that's a good candidate
For development.
for development. I don't think you should pave over any more cornfields. Paved over enough.
Move fraternities and sororities to university property to free up space. Guess what? We would get rid of all of that chaos on Madbury Road. Let the university.
Nice idea, but highly unlikely.
No, but why can't we make that as a suggestion?
Because if they're privately owned, they don't have to relocate.
They don't have to, but you can designate a spot that you would like them to go.
Right, but if they own the property outright.
They need the university's constant approval to have that property.
Yeah, that's true.
The university has taken over at least two of these things, two fraternities since I've been here.
There's a railroad track that runs through from here pretty much down to there.
Right.
And if you're going to site any kind of a commercial development that requires materials to be moved, being on a railroad track is really good. Being on a railroad track close to a highway is better. And so that means up here.
Yeah, this is the railroad track is right here.
Yep. So this is kind of, I would say, prime location for commercial industrial development.
This is Beach Hill, where the old Beach Hill ski area used to be.
And it's the headwaters of, if I remember correctly, it's partly headwaters of the Oyster River.
Yep.
So that's why it's been high on the conservation commissions or conservation communities list of properties to protect at least around here. So then you'd have to have a good buffer between
And I believe,
that.
Isn't that area also a wildlife corridor?
Probably, yeah, so
What
that now
would make
becomes
sense in our
tricky.
discussion, even though we're focused on commercial, circle that area in terms of conservation.
Well, I'll go back to an exercise that our table made earlier, where the highest priority, I think, of virtually everyone there was to protect the waterways and the watersheds and the natural resources of the waterway. This certainly doesn't if this is offered as potential commercial development, I applaud the folks for putting a stop there.
Some of the things that we're fussing with are increasing public space, kind of along Mill Road coming from Maine down, putting a little pavilion in, giving, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because there are positives to it, but then does it create a gathering place for mischief making?
Okay.
Improve the facade of some of the buildings that have not been redone.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. There were some interesting comments about let's attract businesses that make an investment in the community, that care about this community and want to be part of it. One group talked about the desire to have clean businesses that are drawn into Durham. When you talked about downtown, some big issues that came up across many, if not all, of the groups. One was walkability, traffic issues, parking, destinations. You want things downtown, again, that pull the year-round folks as well as the folks who are here during the school year. A lot of discussion about integrating green space into the downtown, with conversations in several groups about pocket parks. Some people talked about tables outside, and then there were some specific comments about particular kinds of businesses that you would love to have downtown. Again, in terms of what's next, we have a lot of ways for you to weigh in. The immediate next step is we're going to do this write-up. It's not going to be real immediate. I hope you hear me. It's going to take some time to do the write-up, so it will be several weeks before you get that. But we will be emailing that out to you. And the Land Use Committee is, I know, going to be spending a lot of time thinking about all the things that they've heard today and identifying, what are they hearing? What are the questions that are not yet answered? Where do we need to go from here? As I mentioned earlier, the total plan will not be finished until the end of the year, so there will be additional opportunities to do work on this, and certainly there's a whole lot of work that has to happen in order to turn this into the future land use chapter.